They declared the human dead. No pulse, no brain activity, no breath for 32 minutes. The alien medics zipped the body bag. Then he yawned and asked for 5 more minutes. What follows is a ship-wide medical crisis. The scout ship Echo 7 was wrecked and smoking under the purple sky of the planet Ralminter Tius. It was half covered in moss and had left a long scrape in the ground. The crash had been fast and violent, caused by a tiny meteor hitting it during landing. The front of the ship was crushed and the back was burned by fire. Its emergency signals stopped the moment it crashed. When the Concorde rescue team arrived, the metal of the ship was still cooling down. They moved in carefully. The ship had shown signs of life for just 12 seconds, then nothing. This was the 5th crash on the planet in just 12 cycles. The planet's strong magnetic forces, wild winds, and unstable ground made it very hard to land safely. The rescue team, 2 Torvalines, 2 alien medics called Itari, and a trauma expert from a species called Zealand, quickly began searching through the burnt wreck. Inside the cockpit, partially pinned beneath a fractured navigation beam, they found the pilot. Male, human. He was sprawled on his back, flight suit charred at the edges, helmet cracked, visor fogged from inside. Pulse check was negative, ocular response absent, respiratory function 0. Surface temperature consistent with systemic shutdown. I have no neural activity, reported Vextil, the Itari neuromedic, tapping the side of his head console. Brainstem is cold, heart function absent. This subject is deceased. Confirming, said the Zealand, hovering close and activating an autopsy seal on his surgical gloves. Documenting post-mortem for Concorde records, body to be extracted for analysis. They cut away the cockpit's upper hatch and lifted the beam carefully off the chest. No signs of resistance, no groaning, not even a twitch. Vextil's scanner chirped once, confused. He checked it, recalibrated, and frowned. Residual electrical current in cortical tissue. Possible artifact? Not viable, the Zealand said flatly. Human cortex cannot sustain function more than 5 minutes post-cardiac cessation. This impact occurred 33 minutes ago. The team began stabilizing the remains for transport. The Zealand recorded verbal notes. Subject shows no external hemorrhaging, no cranial fracture, likely death by internal trauma or neural concussion. Rigor mortis has not yet fully developed, consistent with human post-mortem staging. They laid him flat on the stretcher board. Vextil sealed the transport capsule and prepared to inject tissue preservative. That was when the body exhaled. Not a gas leak. Not mechanical release. A long, rattling breath, the kind pulled from deep in the lungs of someone who hadn't drawn air in minutes. And the body twitched. The Zealand froze. Is this involuntary nerve spasm? Vextil asked. The twitch became a stretch. One arm shifted, fingers curling. The head tilted slightly, eyes remained shut, but then the body yawned, loudly, not in pain, not in gasping return to life. It was the weary, full-bodied yawn of a man rudely awakened from deep sleep. The Zealand dropped the scanner. This cannot be accurate. The human mumbled something. It was hard to make out. The translator lagged behind, confused by the garbled phrasing. Then the man rolled slightly onto his side and muttered, 5 more minutes. The medical team backed up simultaneously. The Torvalines instinctively raised their thermal shields, unsure if they were witnessing a neural seizure or resurrection. He's dead, Vextil insisted. I ran a trineural cascade test, no cortical activity, none. Then how, asked Zealand, voice now trembling slightly, is he snoring? It's because he was. The human, still on the recovery board, had fallen back into what appeared to be sleep. His breathing was slow, rhythmic. One hand rested against his face. He twitched once more, then stilled again. Do humans regenerate? Asked one of the Torvalines. Is this a cocoon state? A metabolic reset? None of the literature suggests this, the the Zealand said, now rapidly scrolling through the Concord Medical Archive. There are no cases of humans returning to functional breathing after 30 minutes of confirmed cardiac inactivity. But he is alive, Vextel said, stunned. He must be. They rescanned. Pulse. Present. Breathing. Stable. Oxygen saturation 94%. Still unconscious, but undeniably alive. The Zealand ordered immediate containment. The human, identified as Lieutenant Jason Reed from the manifest, was transferred to the medical frigate Halland Vexora. No further physical trauma was evident, and internal imaging showed nothing more than a mild concussion, 2 bruised ribs, and a sprained ankle. Not enough to stop a heart, but clearly enough to mimic death. Once stabilized in an isolation chamber, Reed finally opened his eyes. Groggy, confused, then irritated. "Who turned on the lights?" he grunted. "Is it Tuesday?" The medics watched in awe. The Zealand cautiously approached, offering a hydration tube. "You were unresponsive. For nearly 40 minutes. We believed you had perished." Jason frowned. "Wait. What?" "You were clinically dead." Jason took the tube, sipped, and leaned back against the pillow. "Oh, that's just how I nap sometimes." No one spoke. Eventually, Vextel said what they were all thinking. This species is medically impossible. And the reviews began. The medical suite aboard the Halland Vexora was outfitted for dozens of species, but never before had its personnel faced a patient who yawned during his own post-mortem. Lieutenant Jason Reed, now fully conscious and exceptionally grumpy, reclined on a biosupport frame while several alien specialists took cautious measurements from the other side of a transparent barrier. "So you're saying my heart stopped?" Jason asked, brushing an oxygen sensor off his lip. "Like, actually stopped?" "For 32 minutes and 18 seconds, replied Chief Biophysiologist Sir Linthier, "confirmed by 5 independent systems. You presented total cardiac arrest, non-reactive pupils, and cortical silence. All signs consistent with permanent systemic shutdown." Jason blinked. "And nobody thought to just, I don't know, poke me a bit?" "We followed protocol," Sir Len said stiffly. "Our understanding of human thresholds is evidently insufficient." Jason rubbed his temples. "Or maybe you guys should add a new section to that protocol called, 'Don't bag the human until he starts decomposing.'" From behind a digital panel, Vextel added, "But you did not show signs of metabolic slowdown, no preparatory signaling, no hypoxic seizures, just nothing. Then, sleep behavior." Jason narrowed his eyes. "Look, I've done 36-hour shifts on orbital scaffolds. Sometimes when I crash hard. No dreams, no twitching, nothing. That kind of blackout sleep isn't rare." "Blackout sleep?" Sir Len asked, visibly disturbed. "Yeah," Jason said. "You lie down and your whole body just shuts off for a while." Sir Len typed furiously into a med tab. "This resembles controlled hibernation, but induced voluntarily, without pharmaceuticals." "Not really voluntarily," Jason muttered. "More like forced by exhaustion." This phrase set off a frenzy of typing among the medics. An emergency panel was convened later that day aboard the Halland Vexora. Sirlin Vextel, 2 neurotherapists, a Zelani circulatory researcher, and an exobiology ethicist were all in attendance. Jason, in standard issue ship sweats and sipping coffee, was placed in a reclining seat at the head of the chamber. No one spoke for a full minute. Finally, Sir Len addressed him. "Lieutenant Reed, what you call deep sleep presents as clinical death across every standard inter-species metric." "Because those metrics aren't made for humans," Jason said, unfazed. "We run hot, we burn out. Sometimes we pass out hard enough that even our own tech can't tell if we're awake or not." "But you had no pulse," said the Zalani, named Rithvolu. "Our med scans read null across every major system." Jason nodded. "Okay, let me put it like this. My senior year back on Earth, I stayed awake 5 days straight studying for a fleet propulsion cert. The night I passed the exam, I fell asleep under a desk in the mess hall. 2 people thought I was dead. A third guy tried to take my boots. Several medics looked horrified. You can stay awake that long? Vextil asked. With coffee and spite? Serlin leaned forward. But why would your body shut down so fully during sleep? Jason shrugged. That's just how we recover. If we push our limits, sleep pushes back, hard. You should have died, Rith said, scanning his notes again. A 32-minute cardiac pause should result in irreversible brain damage. Jason gestured to his head. And yet here I am, no permanent damage, maybe a little memory fuzz, but that might have already been there. The group grew quiet again. Then Serlin said, We must reclassify human sleep behaviors immediately. They do not conform to any known biological rest cycle. By the next shift cycle, Jason had become the center of a ship-wide research review. The original declaration of death had triggered dozens of incident reports, which now had to be amended with addenda. Subject recovered spontaneously, cardiac activity resumed unaided, now ambulatory and responsive. The implications were staggering. The medics launched a full neurological profile. Jason was subjected to 24-hour observation, multiple stress tests, thermal mapping, and sleep tracking. The sleep tracking was the most confounding. At 400 hours ship time, under mild sedation and zero external stimuli, Jason entered what Earth medical textbooks would recognize as Stage 3 non-REM sleep. Breathing slowed, heart rate dropped. At minute 18, his cortical wave activity dropped to undetectable levels, flatlined. No dreaming, no motion. The alien monitors began blaring warnings. Hema's entering the death state again, Rith said. Serlin held up a hand. Do not interrupt, let the cycle complete. At minute 29, Jason's breathing returned to normal. At minute 30, his heart rate stabilized. At minute 31, he rolled over and muttered, Seriously, let me sleep, I swear to God. The chamber was silent. Vexhill whispered, It is not sleep. It is biological stasis. By now, the story had leaked to the civilian scientists aboard. Discussions spread across shipboard forums, with threads titled Sleep or Rebirth and Humans Too Tired to Die. Jason, blissfully unaware of most of it, finally requested a normal bed and time to himself. When Serlin denied it, citing ongoing study, Jason wrote a formal complaint. I'm not dead anymore, he told them, and if you don't let me get actual rest, I might fake it again. A compromise was reached. Jason would submit to 1 more week of monitored rest, with a full schedule of sleep, wake, and exertion cycles, and after that, full return to duty. Pending evaluation. On the 5th night, Serlin watched as Jason completed another deep sleep phase with zero detectable brain activity and woke up asking about breakfast burritos. This changes everything, Serlin said. And it did. Terlin Thier paced the data lab in tight, methodical loops. The walls around him flickered with floating charts, neural scans, and waveform comparisons between sleep stages of over 80 species. At the center of the projection was Jason Reed's full biometric record, highlighted in amber, his sleep cycles boxed in red with the label, Postmortem Mimicry Non-Terminal. Impossible, Serlin muttered for the 3rd time that morning. Behind him, Vextil leaned over a wide console, reviewing time-stamped logs from the 2nd monitored sleep cycle. This one lasted 37 minutes, the Atari said. No cardiac or cortical activity for 29 of them. Serlin turned sharply. And yet no sign of ischemic damage, no cellular hypoxia, no chemical degradation in neural tissue. It's as if the body simply snored at minute 34, Vextil added. Serlin blinked. It startled Rith. He dropped a tray. The medics weren't alone in their obsession. Across the Hallan Vexera, research departments in sleep science, neurophysiology, and evolutionary biology had mobilized. Communications with Concord's central medical database became hourly. Each updated log triggered a cascade of mirrored studies on other ships. Some humans volunteered to participate in remote trials, but none replicated Jason's depth of unresponsiveness. Jason, meanwhile, was tired of being studied. He had accepted the attention at first, answering questions, demonstrating caffeine rituals, even reenacting a shift nap in a cramped equipment closet. But his patience had limits. By the 8th day, he was refusing biometric patches. "I just want to sleep without someone panicking," he said, arms crossed in front of the bio bed. "I'm not dying. I'm resting. Big difference." "You lack the standard recovery signs," Saralyn insisted. "Your brain goes dark. There is no neural rebound. No stress hormone cascade." "Yeah, that's what good sleep looks like." "What?" Jason leaned forward. "Have you ever worked 3 consecutive emergency shifts in 0G repairs, eaten half a protein bar in 12 hours, and crawled inside a fusion core at 3 a.m.? Saralyn looked vaguely horrified. "No." "Then don't judge how my body resets. It knows what it's doing better than your scanners." Saralyn did not reply. Instead, he uploaded another update to the medical council, this time labeling Jason's condition episodic metabolic dormancy. It was not accepted. 2 days later, the council called a live session. Jason was summoned to appear in person. Mira Tallis, the peace envoy who had once testified during a different human emergency, happened to be in system and joined as a neutral observer. She found Jason in the briefing room, slouched in a chair, arms folded, visibly annoyed. "Did you really fake down 3 more times?" she asked. "I didn't fake anything," Jason snapped. "I slept. Apparently that's a high crime now." Mira smiled faintly. "You have become the most confusing case in recent Concord medicine." The council's holofeed activated with 9 representatives present. Saralyn stood to deliver a summary. "Lieutenant Jason Reed has exhibited repeated episodes of total cortical and cardiac inactivity without subsequent tissue degradation or long-term effects. These episodes last between 25 and 40 minutes and resemble terminal states in all known species." Jason interrupted. "They resemble naps. Let's not call it a death spiral." Saralyn continued without comment. "This raises serious issues regarding triage protocols, emergency treatment, and body recovery during joint missions." A NIVERI panelist asked, "Is this condition communicable or species unique?" "It is species specific," Saralyn replied. "But even among humans, it appears rare." Jason snorted. "Only rare because no one's measured us during finals week." A long silence followed. Finally, a Dravanian elder asked, "Lieutenant, are you capable of initiating these episodes at will?" Jason paused. "No. It happens when I hit my threshold. It's not a trick. And what are the risks?" Jason shrugged. "Honestly, if you interrupt it, I wake up groggy. If you let it finish, I'm better than I was before." Saralyn added quietly, "But to our instruments, you are indistinguishable from dead." Jason looked around the room, voice lower now. "Then your instruments need to learn something new." The council agreed. A new directive was issued within the cycle. All Concord vessels were to update their triage systems to include a pending confirmation status for humans found unresponsive. Full death declarations now required continuous decay markers, or at least 2 failed revival attempts spaced 15 minutes apart. A small but significant change. Back on the Helen Vexora, Jason was finally cleared for normal quarters, where he promptly slept for 10 hours uninterrupted. When Saralyn visited afterward, he brought a data pad with the latest published guidelines. Jason flipped through it, surprised. "You wrote all this?" Saralyn nodded. "You are now a documented anomaly." Feels weird being medical history. Saralyn offered a strange Zelani gesture that Jason had learned meant something like respect. "You are not an anomaly. You are a boundary we had not known existed." Jason handed back the pad. "Then maybe next time someone nods off too hard, wait before zipping the body bag." "I will," Saralyn said. That night, Jason turned off the cabin lights, lay down on his side, and smiled. And no one monitored his breathing. In the days that followed, the Halen Vexor's medical wing was quieter. Not because interest in Jason Reed had waned, far from it, But the frenzy of biomonitors, surprise resuscitation drills, and sleep cycle vigils had finally given way to something more measured. Something that almost resembled understanding. Jason now carried a small card clipped to his uniform. Human sleep classification, stage 4, recovery, rest. Potential mimicry of post-mortem presentation, confirmed. Do not interrupt unless environmental threat imminent. It had a red border, 2 languages, 3 signature stamps. I never thought I'd need a license to nap, Jason said, flipping the card between his fingers as he walked with Mira through the observation deck. Next thing you know, they'll start classifying bathroom breaks as temporal displacement. Mira smiled without slowing. You scared them, Jason. What you did challenges the core of how they define life and death. It's not an easy thing to admit your entire science is missing a piece. Yeah, but I didn't do anything. That's the part no one's getting. I wasn't dying. I wasn't even in trouble. I was just tired. You were motionless, non-responsive, no visible metabolic signs. To them, that's death. Well, I'm walking around now, aren't I? Which makes it worse, she said. You didn't just recover. You made their certainty look fragile. Jason tucked the card away. I guess certainty doesn't mean much when humans are involved. Later that cycle, Serlin met with the medical officers aboard the Halen Vexora. They gathered in the ship's central diagnostics hub, where a new training protocol had been drafted. A rotating 3D model of a human body floated in the center, highlighted in orange at the brainstem and thoracic cavity. Sleep phases are now being redefined, Serlin said to the group. The human subject we observe does not pass through conventional neural rest cycles. He enters a state of near-total suspension, not unlike trauma hibernation, but voluntary and restorative. Is it sustainable long-term? Asked Rithvolu, arms folded. Can they do this regularly without consequence? We don't know yet, Serlin admitted, but it is not pathology, it's physiology. The term itself, recovery dormancy, had already been pushed into the early drafts of the Concord's revised interspecies health protocols. It now sat beside traditional classifications of rest, coma, meditation, and stasis. A human-only tag. Still under study, but no longer ignored. Jason became something of a quiet celebrity in the meantime. Crew from other departments approached him in the corridors, some asking about his sleepless training, or whether he could teach them the technique. Others stared from a distance, uncertain whether to be impressed or unsettled. One particularly enthusiastic Ebenet even asked for a DNA sample, just to be sure it wasn't a trick. Jason declined. After another few cycles, the new guidelines were officially adopted fleet-wide. Medical facilities updated their triage trees. Emergency AI received new programming patches that delayed human death declarations until further cross-checks. Rescue teams were issued briefings emphasizing that humans could remain viable without pulse or response for up to 40 minutes under certain conditions. The updates rippled outward. Medical schools adjusted their textbooks. Sleep researchers filed new grant requests. A few species openly questioned whether humans should be assigned to any roles involving sleep monitoring for others, citing the risk of behavioral bias toward apparent unconsciousness. Jason read that part over breakfast and nearly choked on his orange paste ration. I don't sleep on people, he grumbled. But progress, like sleep, often looked like nothing on the outside. Quiet, still, unmoving. Until suddenly, everything changed. By week 3, the Halen Vexora received a new assignment: planetary infrastructure support on a nearby moon colony experiencing structural collapses after tremors. Jason was rotated back into active duty. No more electrodes, no more overnight monitors, just his toolkit, his helmet, and the low hum of a task he could actually control. He rejoined his engineering crew mid-cycle. No ceremony, no applause, just a nod from the shift chief and a clipped, "Glad to have you back." That was all he needed. The tremor alert came unexpectedly, 4 hours into the first operation. A power relay station beneath the southern hemisphere buckled, triggering a partial cave-in. Jason's team rushed to assist. 2 workers were trapped beneath fallen scaffolding, one human, one Zalani. When they arrived, the human was unresponsive. Jason moved quickly, checked vitals, shallow breathing, slow pulse. But no panic. He turned to the medic. "Give him time." The Zalani medic hesitated. "He shows minimal function." Jason nodded. "Exactly. He's in dormancy. He just went through a crash sequence." "Are you certain?" Jason pointed to the jawline, the neck. "See that vein? Still pumping. He's not gone, not even close." They waited. 9 minutes passed. Then the trapped human groaned and shifted. Jason exhaled through his teeth and smiled. "See," he said, "sometimes we don't go out, we just check out for a while." Later that shift, Serlin received a report from the field team. He read the incident log 3 times, then saved it under a new research file titled Human Sleep, Adaptive Threshold States. That evening, Jason returned to his bunk. No scanners, no supervision, just his own rhythm. He closed his eyes, breathing slowed, muscles slackened. And for 32 quiet minutes, the man once mistaken for dead rested exactly as nature had intended. No monitors blinked, no alarms sounded, and no one tried to wake him. Because this time they knew better.